Welcome to day 2 of our daily Bible devotions. This week, we're going through the teleological argument that focuses on intelligent design. Before we start, let me quote again uh, James Tour, the nanoscientist whom we quoted weeks ago. He said, "Only a rookie who knows nothing about science would say science takes away from faith. If you really study science, it will bring you closer to God." I'd like to start with that because some people really have this mindset that once you talk about faith, you can't talk about science. I want you to think with me for a moment. I'd like you to imagine this. What happens when you forget to plug your smartphone? I mean, you use it the whole day, and then at night, you probably charge it before you go to sleep, or if you're using a low wattage charger, you just charge it overnight. What happens when you forget to plug your smartphone at night? The next day, you'll find your smartphone empty or low in battery, or if not really dead. So how much trouble can happen to you on that day? Can you imagine? Now, imagine with me. What if you can have a device that charges itself when it's low on battery? Autonomous. Imagine a device that hibernates on its own when low on power and then proceed to charging on its own so it's ready when you need it. On its own. You don't have to do anything. Can you imagine that device? If there's something like that, would you buy that? Think. How about this? Think about high powered machines. High powered machines are power hungry, right? Think about cars, yeah, even electric cars, chainsaw. Actually, even gaming laptops, they're power hungry. We constantly look for power source. Imagine, what if you can have a machine that can do powerful tasks on the go, mobile, and when low on power, automatically looks for fuel or power source. Again, on its own, autonomously. Can you think of such a device? Will you avail that? Let me tell you, there is such a machine. That's the human body. It's us. We are machines. And we don't need to be plugged in an outlet. We don't have to be tethered to an outlet, to a wall power. We just sleep or we eat and then we're able to recharge ourselves autonomously. Up until now, there is such there is no machine or device or robot or computer that can do that autonomously on its own. No one, nothing. Just recently, there was an accident in the Tokyo Olympics because there's a self-driving car that hit a visually impaired athlete. I don't know exactly the news. I don't know how accurate I'm telling you this, but there is such an accident, and the manufacturer of the self-driving car decided right there and then decided they will stop the operation of all the self-driving cars being used in Tokyo Olympics. Think about it. As simple as that, the self-driving car was not able to notice and avoid the visually impaired athlete, causing an accident. No machine, no computer can match the smarts, the wits, the judgment of the human brain. The human brain is so much more powerful, so much more smarter than computers. In 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick discovered DNA. What is DNA? DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. It's a chemical that encodes instructions for building and replicating all living things. Remember the example I gave you yesterday about apps, software application, how much encoding is necessary to maintain it, and even if after it's done, there are lots of bugs, so you have to keep on coding it and tweaking it. Programming a software application is difficult enough. Now imagine that kind of encoding, programming is inside living organisms. It requires so much intelligence to maintain an app. Think about DNA, complex molecule. Complex molecule. It builds and maintains itself, right? Complex existence requires intelligence. It requires intelligence. DNA has a helical structure that looks like a twisted ladder. The sides of the ladder are formed by alternating deoxyribose and phosphate molecules, and the rungs of the ladder consist of a specific order of four nitrogen bases. These nitrogen bases are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, which commonly are represented by the letters A, T, C, and G. So these letters comprise what is known as the four-letter genetic alphabet. This alphabet is identical to our English alphabet in terms of its ability to communicate a message, except that the genetic alphabet has only four letters instead of 26, which is what English alphabet is composed of. Just as the specific order of the letters in this sentence communicates a unique message, the specific order of A, T, C, and G within a living cell determines the unique genetic makeup of that living entity. This is called specified complexity. Not just complex in a chaotic sense, but complex in a specific sense. It contains a specific message. Now, according to Richard Dawkins, a professor of zoology at Oxford University, the message found in just the cell nucleus of a tiny organism like the amoeba is more than all 30 volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica combined, and the entire amoeba has as much information in its DNA as 1,000 complete sets of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Can you imagine that? The entire amoeba, the unicellular organism amoeba, according to Professor Dawkins, has 1,000 complete sets of the Encyclopedia Britannica. That much information. And so in other words, if you spell out A, T, C, and G, you stretch it to fill 1,000 complete sets of an encyclopedia, you can fit all that information in a unicellular organism. This is an amoeba. One amoeba has that much information. How much more in a human body? If there's so much information contained there, would you really believe that that's just a product of nature? A software application cannot be produced on its own. It needs constant fixing. You can't leave it on its own. Would you believe that an amoeba that contains so much information, autonomous, is just doing it on its own? Now, let's say, okay, evolution. Because of the natural forces, all these chemicals combine together to produce a living organism such as an amoeba. Okay, because evolution theory says that with the perfect conditions, all the non-living chemicals and non-living elements combine to form the unicellular organisms. And the unicellular organisms continue to replicate and evolve into multicellular organisms until it evolved into beings like us. Now, let's try to buy that. How can you produce a living organism using just elements, just chemicals? Was there ever an experiment that when you combine chemical elements, non-living elements, it will produce life? I'm telling you, up until now, there is no way that elements can be produced in a test tube such that it would produce even a bacteria. Not even a bacteria. Only a living organism can produce a living organism. No non-living elements can be combined in such a way that it will produce a living organism. That's what evolution is proposing. But that much information cannot just be a product of non-living, non-intelligent elements. It could only come from intelligence. Specific complexity requires intelligence. And if an amoeba contains so much information, contains specific messages, how much more the programming of our own body? And let me tell you, message means intelligence.